Hi, and welcome to Just Sharika. So on today's video, we have a special interview with Mr. Dwayne Berbick, Corporate and Public Affairs Manager at the National Housing Trust, who will explain the process of home ownership through the NHT. So if you are watching and you are interested in acquiring real estate in Jamaica, be sure to watch this video to the end. But before we get into the discussion, I'm going to ask Mr. Berbick to just tell us a little about himself and his role at the NHT.
Okay, the little bit about myself part is hard because I'm as boring as they come, nothing interesting here. But as you pointed out, I'm the NHT's Corporate and Public Affairs Manager. So my role is to keep our stakeholders engaged and informed. It's a little bit of corporate communication. It's a little bit of stakeholder engagement, meeting with our different interest groups, whether they are our developers or mortgagors or contributors, and just sharing as much information with them as to what the NHT is doing and taking back from them as well concerns, recommendations, suggestions that the NHT can look at and implement. So that's the role in a nutshell. Yes.
Okay, sounds interesting and a whole lot of work. So before we start, though, I just want to say thank you for availing yourself for this interview. I know you've been very busy, and I just want to say thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to sit down and have this conversation with us. All right.
And thanks very much for inviting us as well. We appreciate these opportunities where we get to share information. We do it every day, but we realize that even at our best, we still are not reaching everybody. So we appreciate channels and platforms that allow us to share even more. So thanks for having us as well.
Thank you so much. So most of my viewers are very interested in acquiring homes and home ownership and purchasing land to build their houses. So I'm sure that most of them will be very intrigued and interested in what this video will be about and the discussion. So we're going to jump right into it. So I have my list of questions as pulled together by myself and a number of my subscribers. So you will see me from time to time looking down to ensure that I get across all of them. All right. So
Sure.
We are aware that the NHT was established in 1976 to provide housing for Jamaicans. So let us start from the beginning. So who really qualifies for an NHT loan?
Well, the NHT Act says once you're a Jamaican, once you're working in Jamaica, you're between the ages of 18 and 65, you're earning at least minimum wage, whether you're employed by a company or self-employed, you must be contributing to the NHT. So that's the very beginning. It starts with who is a contributor. And as I said, once you're between the ages of 18 and 65, you're earning at least minimum wage, you must be contributing to the NHT. So who qualifies for a loan now? Any individual who would have contributed to the NHT for at least 52 weeks, which is 1 year. So once you would have satisfied that first eligibility criteria is that you would have contributed to the NHT for at least 52 weeks, 1 year. And that doesn't have to be one consistent 52-week period. It can be 6 months this year, 6 months last year. Once the NHT is able to account for 52 weeks of contributions over a period of time, then you would be eligible where that is concerned. In addition, however, you, at the time of loan application, you must be a current NHT contributor. And what we mean by a current NHT contributor is that within the last 6 months, you must have made 3 months worth of contributions being paid over on your behalf. If it is that you are a PAYE individual, meaning a company employs you and make those contributions on your behalf, or in the case of you being self-employed, you must have made 2 quarterly payments in the last 6 months to be able to qualify for a loan from the NHT. Again, you must be between the ages of 18 and 70 to get a loan. And that 70 is a recent adjustment because previously we stopped borrowing relations at age 65. But we realized that persons are living longer,
Right.
persons are working longer as well. And so within the last year and a half, we would have made an adjustment to the upper age limit as it relates to borrowing, and we move that from 65 to 70. So those are the basic, I would call, eligibility criteria. Again, there are other factors that we'll bear in mind as to how much you get to borrow, and I'm sure we'll get into a discussion about that. So I won't jump into those variables just yet, but those would be the basic loan eligibility requirements.
Okay, so just to wrap that up, in order to qualify, you need to be a Jamaican between the age of 18 and 17. Previously, it was 65, but it's now increased to age 70. And they need to be contributing at least for a year, 52 weeks. And you did mention it does not have to be 52 consecutive weeks. Once you can count them up and it adds to the 52, then that person would qualify, correct?
That's correct.
All right, so thank you so much for that. So this would lead into my other question that I have here. I have a subscriber who has been contributing for some years back, but for some reason, I think she lost her job and she was not contributing. So for her to become eligible, she would now need to come to the NHT to start contributing again, and you would add up all of those years that she would have contributed before. So it would not be a loss based on what you just said.
No, it would not be a loss. At the time of loan application, we would expect her to be current, meaning 3 months of contributions, or as we say, 13 weeks, which generally equates to about 3 months. So once she starts making contributions again and satisfy that 13-week/3 month period, she would become eligible to access a loan after that time.
Okay, all right. So thank you so much for that clarification. In terms of persons who are Jamaicans, because you did mention Jamaicans. So what if I am a Jamaican, but I am currently living overseas? How do I qualify myself to obtain a loan from the NHT?
Well, the NHT has another category of contributors. Well, to look at our category of contributors, we have our PAYE. You're employed by someone and that person makes the contributions on your behalf. You have persons who are self-employed. I believe that's self-explanatory. You're your own boss. And so you make your NHT contributions on a quarterly basis for yourself. And then the third category now we have is our voluntary contributors. And by voluntary, we mean that they don't have to make NHT contributions, but they choose to. And this is where our individuals or Jamaicans living overseas are concerned. I must clarify, though, that there are two categories of Jamaicans living overseas. We have those individuals who have perhaps gone on short-term work, or they're overseas not as a result of a change in citizenship or a change in as it relates to immigration status. Those individuals are still considered self-employed and would fall in the quarterly payment group. Right. But now the Jamaicans who know you're a green card holder, you're a citizen, those individuals can register as what we call voluntary contributors and be able to access their NHT benefits just the same as anyone else. So we have a simple form, a one-page form that we ask those individuals to fill out, and they make their payments on a monthly basis, rather, 3% of their income on a monthly basis that they make to the NHT as contribution payments. If they have never contributed to the NHT ever before, it is 2 years before they become eligible for a loan. If they have contributed to the NHT for a 52-week period before leaving Jamaica, because we have individuals who would have like migrated, etc., and would have been paying NHT contributions before leaving, then it would just be 1 year for those individuals. So after a year of contributing again, they would become eligible for an NHT loan as well.
Okay, so that's good news for persons who are living overseas, whether or not they started contributing from here. But just so if they have not started, if they didn't start when they were here and they're now living overseas, they need 2 years worth of contribution. But if you were employed here and you were paying your NHT contributions, you only need to contribute for 1 year.
That's correct, yes.
Right. So that's good to know. So persons here and overseas, once you are Jamaicans, you can contribute and benefit from the National Housing Trust.
Yes, and I'll add it's extended Jamaicans as well. So you don't necessarily have to be born here. Your parents could be of Jamaican birth, but you, as an example, perhaps were born overseas. You're of Jamaican descent. Then the NHT also considers the broader diaspora when it comes to the classification of who Jamaicans are and who can contribute to the NHT.
Okay, that's good to know. So once, if you're from Jamaican parents and you're living overseas and you are interested in buying real estate in Jamaica, you can contribute to the National Housing Trust and benefit from all the things that they have right there, correct?
That's correct.
Beautiful. All right, so I guess we can move on to the next question. You did mention eligibility, right? What is an eligibility letter and how do you go about obtaining one?
The eligibility letter is sometimes interchangeably called a pre-approval letter, which pretty much details your how much the NHT will lend you at what interest rate and over what loan tenure. And it's a document that I know most realtors ask their clients to get, and it's very important because when it gets to putting in an offer for a sale, it's kind of like an indication that, hey, I'm serious about this, that I'm not just saying I like your house and I want to buy it, but I've gone a step further to assess my financial status. And that's why it's even more important. The realtor wants to know that you can afford the property you're interested in, or if they're helping you to search, they know within which parameters they are looking. Your eligibility letter doesn't say you can take on a mortgage of $15 million and you have the realtor out there looking for a $30 million property. You're wasting your time your time as well, because the financial institution is not going to approve such a mortgage. So it's a really important document that helps to guide the relationship and guides the purchasing process in the early stages. How you can access that letter from the NHT, the NHT would require three recent pay slips. We want to see your NIS as well and your TRN and proper identification for you. Once you're able to furnish us with those, then an eligibility letter can be prepared for you. I must point out though that it takes time to prepare an eligibility letter. So if you're really not in the market looking, you don't necessarily require an eligibility letter. You just want to know your affordability. And for that, you can always use our mortgage calculator on our website nht.gov.jm. The same information that's on the eligibility letter you will get through the mortgage calculator. So if you're just interested, you're not yet looking, you just want to know how much you will qualify for, use our mortgage calculator. But when you're serious now and you're in the market and you want your letter to give to your realtor, or when you identify a property, you want to hand that letter over to the vendor, then give us those documents and we'll have one prepared for you.
All right, so a quick question though, because I know that the eligibility letter is a document that can show your, I guess, purchasability, is that such a word, what you can afford? So it outlines the amount of money that the NHT will lend you based on how much you're qualified to get based on age, I guess, and your income, correct?
That's correct. Yes.
All right. So you did mention your mortgage calculator, but for those out there who are not so tech savvy, is it possible for someone to phone in to get that information?
Insofar as which one? They just want to know.
Right, they want to know how much they qualify for.
Yes, they can, but I would tell you though that mortgage calculator is very user-friendly. User-friendly. It will just ask you for your age, it asks you for your income, it asks you some basic questions. Have you borrowed from the NHT before? Are you a public sector worker? Because that will impact your interest rate. Just about 5 or 6 questions, really.
Right.
And once you fill that out, it does all the calculation. It tells you how much you qualify for each benefit type. It tells you what is the loan tenure, how long that loan will last. It gives you a good idea as to what your monthly payback is as well.
Okay.
And that's something you can always just print and walk with yourself and keep it for yourself. So I always encourage persons to use it. But if you're not tech savvy and you're having a challenge, we have a great customer service team. Of course, you can always reach out to us for some assistance.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for that. So in terms of the eligibility letter, is there an expiry date to the letter?
Yes, it's generally valid for about a 6-month period.
6 months.
And right, because variables which impact the calculations on the eligibility letter can change. One of the variables being age, because age impacts how long you get to repay the loan. So if my birthday is in the middle of the year, how much my eligibility letter will tell me in June. Well, my birthday is actually in July. So say, for example, I get an eligibility letter in June. By July, August, September, if I've passed a birthday, the variables would change a little bit. So we don't keep them having a very long shelf life as well, because income is also another variable that we look at. And if you would have gotten like a pay increase, knock on wood, within the year, that will also impact the calculations on it. So a 6-month period is how long they're valid for.
Okay. All right. So just to recap what was just said. So in order to obtain your eligibility letter, you can, before you even get to that process, you can actually use the NHT's mortgage calculator. So I will leave the link to your website down below so persons can actually utilize that system. So you can go on the NHT's website, use the mortgage calculator to calculate the amount of money that the NHT is willing to lend you based on your age and your income and other questions that will be asked. And if you need the eligibility letter itself, if you're serious and ready to start shopping for that house or that piece of land, if you're ready for that eligibility letter, you will need your last 3 pay slips, your NIS card, TRN card, and your ID. All right. So we're going to move on to the next question on the list. I know a lot of persons have been concerned about your point system. Me, myself, I'm not so au fait, or I don't understand the point system very well. So can you explain what is the NHT's point system and how does it benefit your contributors?
It's called the Priority Index Entitlement System, called PI for short. And it's a mechanism through which the NHT selects individuals for NHT scheme solutions, being either land or a housing unit. And how it works is that for each year an individual contributes to the NHT awards 20 points to that individual. Remember, we spoke about that 52-week period. So for each 52 weeks, you get 20 points. In addition to that, at the time of application, the NHT awards an additional number of points ranging from between a low of 70 to a high of 110. Who gets 70? Our highest income earners, those individuals who earn $42,001 per week and above. And who gets the 110 is our lowest income earners. Those are persons who earn between minimum wage and $15,000 per week. And when you see the NHT now advertises development, individuals apply, and then individuals are ranked in that priority index entitlement system based on the number of points they have. The person with the highest number of points, that person falls what we call at the top of the queue. They get first preference. They're not guaranteed the unit because they have to do a loan interview and look at the other variables, but they get first preference. And the NHT ranks individuals, as I said, according to points, and we start the interview process and we go down until we find the requisite number of individuals in the queue who can take up the NHT solutions.
Okay. So based on the point system then, for persons who contribute longer, or the more years you have, will put you in a better standing to acquire?
Yes, it does.
Okay. All right. So I think you partially answered my next question as it relates to the point system and how it protects the most vulnerable in our society, which are our persons who are earning minimum wage, because you did mention the point system that is skewed. You have a 70 point system and a 110, and you award most to persons who are earning less.
Right.
So this is one way that you support.
Right, because if you look at it under regular circumstances, the highest income earner will always be able to afford a unit. And so that's why we introduced the pie system, because there's no one variable that we can use. If we use income alone, it means then all the housing solutions at the NHT bills will automatically, based off affordability, go to one end of the market. If you reverse that and you say, okay, low income earners only, then again, the other income bands would get shut out. So the point system looks at a combination of years of contribution. It looks at years of contribution. It looks at income as well. And the general selection system also looks at proximity to where that individual is to the development. So say, for example, we advertise for development in Manchester. We would again give priority to individuals who either live in Manchester or work in Manchester.
Okay.
So that's the priority index entitlement system. It looks at all of those variables: location, income, years of contribution, because to use any one variable would put individuals
another person at a disadvantage.
Notwithstanding though, Sharika, we understand that there are some even with a system that looks at those three variables, it still can end up being biased towards particular groups. And so the NHT has a tool that we call a special benefits order that allows us to balance things again, to flip it from being too biased towards one demographic or one income group. And so what we find is that the special benefits order allows the NHT to reserve units within NHT schemes for specific categories of individuals. For these categories of individuals, we have persons who have a disability.
Right.
We have our civil servants, our police, our teachers, our doctors, our nurses. We have as well our young adults, which are individuals under the age of 40. The NHT reserves units in schemes for these categories of individuals because we understand that we need to have a more balanced and a bit more equitable system. And so it corrects some of the inherent biases that may be perceived in the points and the pie system.
I do like what you just said. equitable? Because I have been hearing a number of conversations, and I try not to get myself involved because I did not understand the point system. So I'm really glad that you are here and you're clarifying that the point system is not to keep anybody out, and you're trying to attain that position where you're creating equitable solutions so everybody can benefit. So you did mention that the NHT has is it called the pie? You said the pie? The pie?
That's a general system. The general selection system is called the pie system. Yes.
Right, and you reserve housing solutions for persons who are young persons, for persons who have disabilities, for low income earners. Because I always hear a person saying that, oh, the NHT is not for young people, and you are always awarding houses to only selected kind of persons. So I'm really happy that you are here and you are explaining the process and you are debunking the myths and the misconceptions that are out there that is not so. Go ahead.
Yeah, I understand where that school of thought would come from too, because the reality is the demand for housing is great.
It is.
It's great. So in any NHT development, there are so many and no more housing solutions. And I'll give an example of the challenge that we have. When you advertise for 200 units and you get applications in excess of 7,000, you're going to have 200 happy people, but you're also going to have 6,800 people who are very upset with you. But so you'll find within that 6,800 the low income person who says, no, NHT only I give them rich friend. You'll find the young person who will say, NHT only I give the old people. You'll find the civil servant who say, NHT now look out for we and I was slave and we work so hard for the government. So you're going to find dissatisfied persons in after almost every selection mechanism, because the number of solutions that we put on the market vis-a-vis the demand for them.
The demand is high.
They're not singing the same tune. And that's something we're very much aware of. So even us at the NHT would have ramped up our housing program over the last 4 years, moving from averaging 2,500 houses a year to in the region of 7,000 a year. So and if you follow the news and you follow the NHT, you would realize that within the last few months, almost every month, there are 2 or 3 housing developments that the NHT is pushing on the market. Compare that to 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years ago, you would probably see 1 or 2 or 3 a year. Now you're seeing more opportunities, and that's as a result of our understanding of where the demand is. So we internally are pushing ourselves to deliver more as well. But we do understand that it's going to take a little while before the supply catches up with the demand. And so we continue to pursue creative strategies and creative measures, partnerships with our developers, partnerships with our employers to see how we can bridge that divide. But it's going to take us a little time. And so we ask for just a little bit of patience and understanding as we get through this.
And I do agree with that. I have seen a number of units that you have been pushing out. I'm on your website almost every week. Yes, I'm a little stalker for the NHT website. So I go on it almost every week and I look to see when you're releasing something. And then, I would do a video to let my viewers know that the NHT is coming out with this. Be sure to have your documents ready.
We can't pay you, but we thank you.
That's a pleasure. I find pleasure in doing it. So you don't need to pay me. The thank you is fine. And doing it, I enjoy doing it. And I am happy when I see persons jumping on it. They go and they submit their applications. A few persons have told me that they have gotten through. And I'm very happy for that. Yes. So I know you just mentioned about the demand and not being able to satisfy everyone because the demand for housing solutions are so high. So I will jump into my next question because a lot of persons are eyeing the NHT homes. And I do know that you offer 100% financing for NHT schemes. That's correct. Is it that all the NHT schemes you offer 100% financing? Can you clarify that?
All up to a maximum of 15 million. So
Up
there's
to
a ceiling of 15 million. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So do you have housing that costs more than 15 million?
Pricing is a matter of different variables, to include construction costs, to include the cost of land, to include I mean, you should know location.
Yes.
So in certain in our more urban areas, that's where you probably will find something above 50 million. It's a rarity. I've only, in my NHT lifetime, I've only seen units costing above 50 million, perhaps twice.
I've never seen any. I've missed all of them.
Twice I've ever seen it. And yes, right. So it rarely ever happens.
Right.
But yeah.
Which is a plus for persons out there who are buying. It shows that NHT is thriving. NHT is thriving for affordability and ensuring that the house that you put on the market, that the average person can actually afford. So that's a good thing to know, and you provide 100% financing for those who qualify for that 100%. So can you explain to us a little bit who would qualify to obtain 100% financing through the NHT?
It's hard to tell you, but if we backtrack the conversation a little bit, the variables will look at age and income. So we would have to factor those in to be better able to calculate what's kind of like a sweet spot as to who will qualify. The guiding principle, though, is that it's a loan, it's a mortgage, it's subject to your ability to repay. So I know sometimes individuals will say, okay, you only cap me at 6.5. Or even within the 6.5, not everybody gets that maximum loan limit, and the variables of age, the variables of income come in, and you have to understand that we have to be responsible in how we discharge mortgages, because it's foolhardy to give a $50 million mortgage to an individual who all the variables are telling you that they can only take on a mortgage of $7 million. What happens immediately is that you give them the loan this month, next month, they're in default. So it would be irresponsible to be giving out, mortgages beyond what individuals can afford. So I would just always like to remind persons that, remember, it is a loan, and a loan is conditioned, on your ability to repay. So not everybody will get that 15 million. And that's where that 100% financing, or that 6.5. And that's where our mortgage calculator comes in again, because if you want to know, put in those variables of age and income, and it will tell you where exactly you are in that grand scheme of things.
Okay. All right. So again, as he just said, you can use the mortgage calculator to clarify the amount of money. If you qualify for that 100% financing, you can utilize that calculator. All right, so we're going to jump right into the next question. Back on the issue that you mentioned a while ago of being able to meet the demand, because a lot of persons have been just eyeing the NHT schemes. And I guess because you offer 100% financing, so I think persons are trying to capitalize on that, but you will not be able to meet the demand for everybody right away. So persons are normally encouraged to utilize the open market. So how does that partnership work with the NHT though, and private persons, private developers, and so on? How do you manage that partnership?
We have a great partnership with our joint finance mortgage participants. The program is Joint Finance Mortgage Program, JFMP for short, and it is a one-stop shop experience between the NHT and a total of, I believe, at this point, about 11 other mortgage institutions. So it is for the individual who wants to access additional funding to what the NHT will lend you. So say you see a property that costs 12 million. You come into the NHT confirms that you can get your 6.5, and now you're going to another mortgage institution to access that additional 5.5 that you will need. You don't have to come to the NHT and apply for the 6.5 and go to the institution and apply for the 5.5. You just go to that institution, let them know you want to be a part of the joint finance mortgage program, you want to access your NHT benefit, and they do all the processing for you. They will reach out to the NHT and they will handle the processing of that NHT benefit for you. And it's a similar arrangement when it comes to repayment as well, that you don't have to pay the 6.5 at NHT and the 5.5 at the other institution. You make one payment to the institution and we sort out on the back end. So the customer doesn't have to worry about that any at all. So that's one of the good programs that we've had as a result of partnership with other players in the mortgage market. Yeah.
Okay, so if I see a property on the open market that I'm interested in purchasing, and say the property costs $10 million, and I am qualified based on my NHT eligibility letter for the full 6.5, I can go to one of your partners, and can you give like probably a few of them?
I'm either going to give you none or all, and I'm going to try and give you all because I don't want to disadvantage anyone.
Right, and I don't want you to give anyone.
So there's BNS, the bank, and there's BNS Building Society, so that's two. There's Sagicor, the bank, and then there's Sagicor, the other arm of the institutions, so that's four there. Those are the harder ones. There's First Caribbean International Bank. There is Jamaica National. There's Victoria Mutual. There's First Global Bank. There's JMMB. I'm at 9, and I'm drawing a blank.
I don't think the viewers will punish you for that. NCB.
And there's NCB 10, and oh boy, who am I forgetting? I think it may be 10 and not 11 because I don't think I'm forgetting anybody.
Okay.
If I am, it's inadvertent. But there's always a list of them on our website.
There's a list on the website. Beautiful. Okay.
Yeah. So just look for Joint Finance Mortgage Program under loans.
Beautiful.
And you'll see the list there.
Okay. So persons can go to that list and they can look at your partners to choose who they can go to get that additional source of funds to purchase that property. And as you said before, once they go to that partner will ensure that they manage all the aspects of this purchase. So they don't have to be running to the bank, then run into NHT, because everything will be done at the partnering entity, correct?
That's correct, yes.
All right, beautiful. All right, so let me see what's the next question I have on the list. All right, so I do know that for the NHT, the max that you lend for acquiring a house is 6.5 million, correct?
That's correct, yes.
All right, and you would have said this earlier, that as persons are aware by now, that this amount that you get is dependent on a number of factors. So it's not a broad scheme for everybody that everybody will get this 6.5. So let us be clear on that. So it's a number of factors that will determine whether or not you get the 6.5 or whatever figure that you will get. All right, so I just want persons to know that not everybody gonna get the 6.5. So some variables that will be used is your age, your income. Is gender a factor as well?
Not at all.
No. Oh, because I normally hear they say men are high risk.
Really?
Yes.
Actually, you know, if I think about our mortgage portfolio, there's a slight lean, and I say slight lean towards us having more female mortgages than males, actually.
Yeah, because more women buy
It's not a significant difference. I think it's probably about a 51 to 49%, but we have slightly more female mortgages than male mortgages, actually. Yeah, but no, gender doesn't impact in the calculation.
Okay. Hint, men. Yeah, buying more houses. What's going on? What's going on? All right, so we can move quickly into the next question. And based on the point system, you did hint a little bit on it. The point system and how you cater to persons with disability, because I do know a few persons who have varying disabilities and they wanted to know how the NHT, you did mention a program, but could you restate the name of the program that you have in place for persons living with disability and how they can come and benefit from the NHT?
Okay, well, it's not a specific program. What we do is within our schemes, there is a certain number of units that we allocate in consultation with the Council for Persons with Disabilities. And it's not just allocating the units, but the discussion and conversation and engagement goes way beyond that, insofar as we allow the council to even come and select the units. Because of course, when you look at a broad development, you have to bear certain variables in mind as it relates to especially access. So we allow the council to even select, okay, where within, we have 10 units in this development for your membership. Where are the ideal units that would, you know, work well for your membership based on the different challenges that they are experiencing. So that's the kind of relationship. So we reserve a certain number, and individuals can access them once they are registered with the council for persons with disabilities. We'll write to the council, we'll tell them that, hey, we're doing a development in this parish, we have 10 reserved, put this information out across your membership, have them apply, and those 10 won't go to anybody else. You come and select which 10 you want, and you know, the selection process will take care of that. Beyond that as well, we give persons with disabilities a 2% reduction in their interest rate. So say you qualify under normal circumstances for a 4% mortgage from the NHT, by virtue of being an individual with a disability, we will take 2 percentage points off that. Actually, since last year, we took that a step further as well, and we've now extended this facility to the parents as well of children who have a disability. They now get that 2% reduction. So you could start at 4 and come down to 2, and you could start at 2 and come down to 0.
Okay.
Yes. In addition as well, the NHT has a disability grant of $150,000 that we make available to individuals who are mortgagors who have a disability, or individuals who are mortgagors who have persons with a disability living in the household. Once that individual is registered with the Council for Persons with Disabilities, you can come in and access that $150,000 grant. And that is really just to retrofit the property to make it a bit more friendly for the person with the disability. And I know individuals have used it to do various things. Persons have used it to put in ramps. Persons who probably are confined to wheelchairs have used it to lower light switches a little bit, so you know, and lower different elements of home a little bit so they are within reach. I know persons who have children who are autistic, they've used that to put like rails in the bathroom, so in certain, you know, you carrying out certain functions a little bit more comfortable, right? So that's the purpose of that grant, really. And as I said, it's a grant. It's so
you don't have to pay that money back. That's free money.
That's correct.
Beautiful. I think we all love free money.
Who doesn't?
Who doesn't, right? All right. So next question though, for persons who are interested, and we're still a little bit on the point system, for persons who are the older sets, persons over 50 but under the age of 70 and have never acquired a home, would have been throwing NHT contribution for a number of years. What system do you have in place to benefit those persons who are not so young, but want to acquire a house?
Give me 1 second, let me plug in my charger. I'm back with you. All right. All right, so the NHT understands that life happens, and even with the best of intentions, that individuals may not have been able to pursue their home ownership goal at the point they would have wanted, and perhaps they're doing this a little bit later in life.
Mhm.
Actually, when we look at when we look at our mortgage portfolio, what we find is that the average individual is averaging in age around 43, 44 in terms of being at the time that they purchase a home. And that's something the NHT has been trying to bring down. And we did a campaign last year to do that in terms of encouraging persons to pursue this a little bit sooner.
Right.
But we do understand that notwithstanding, there are some individuals based on their circumstances who just couldn't.
Right.
And so once you're 55 and over and you're a first-time mortgager, the NHT gives you a 2% reduction in your interest rate. Again, you could start at 4 and come down to 2, start at 2 and come down to 0. In addition to that as well, the NHT has a program called Parent Assist,
right,
where a parent and a child can pursue, one legally adopted or biological child can pursue home ownership together. In many instances, it is often sold as the parent assisting the child, but in truth and in fact, sometimes it could be very well the opposite as well, that it is a child who is in fact assisting the parent. So once that parent and child can always partner and access a NHT loan again. And one of the good things that we did with that program last year is to generally 2 individuals co-applying have individual stake in the mortgage. So my mom, for example, say my mom is 60, I'm 30. She would only get 10 years up to age 70 to repay, whereas I'm at 30, I would get 40 years up to age 70 to repay. What the NHT did over the last year is that we would now calculate both mortgages using the younger age, which would be in this example I'm giving you, 30. The child's 30. So instead of having one mortgage being 40 and 10, both mortgages would now be calculated at 40 years to repay. And that's a very, very big thing, because a longer loan tenure translates into smaller, more manageable monthly payments. So through a program like that, we find that parents and children can always partner and pursue that home ownership goal together as well.
All right, and that's so beautiful. So, but there's a downside I'm looking at it though, and I would want for you to explain, because I know there's normally a challenge. So if I should assist my parent to acquire a property and know that my name is on that title, what if down the line I decide to get a house of my own? Would that prove to be a challenge, given that my name is already on a title?
It would be a challenge, not because your name is on the title, but that you use your NHT benefit already, and you would have invested it in that property. On that topic, though, that you would have indicated, I know it's a concern for some individuals whose parents would have put their names on titles for estate planning purposes. And now they're adults and they're being told, yeah, you're a homeowner. Legally, you are. Your name is on the title, so legally you are a homeowner. But the NHT understands those circumstances, that it's really for estate planning purposes, and the child really has no interest. It could be you're just the oldest child and there are 4 or 5 of you. You don't know who mommy and daddy going to leave the house to. It's not guaranteed to be yours. So in those instances, we just generally ask the child in this case to put it in writing that, hey, my name is on a title. It's for estate planning purposes. My parents did it. I have no interest in the property. It's just for security purposes. And the NHT does not hold it against a child insofar as that individual will be able to access their NHT benefit just the same as anybody else.
Okay, just the same as anybody else. Okay, that's good to know, because I've heard persons who are actually in similar positions. Their parents would have purchased a property, which is a good thing to have your name on a title. Don't get it wrong. It's a good thing to have your name on a title for a house, but they're concerned when they are ready to purchase their own property that, you probably will turn them down. And you're saying that it's a no once it was used for estate planning purposes, and they can
Right.
show evidence in the form of a letter.
Right.
That
Just put it in writing.
That would they need a lawyer for anything like that, or a JP or something?
No, once they put it in writing, and include it as part of the general loan application process, that will suffice.
Okay. All right.
I must point out though that there's a difference between now the child who has inherited a house and you live in the house and your house. That's a different story versus
you can't
one.
get any loan from NHT then.
You can get a loan from NHT to improve on that property,
Mm-hmm.
but